Everyone. So Los Angeles Lakers played their first NBA game of the season and they lost to Denver. And it sucks, right? We wanted to start on a bright note, right? We wanted to go into Denver, ruin the ring ceremony, walk away with the W after all the talk Mike Malone had all offseason and then trying to downplay it like, oh, I wasn't really doing that. But regardless, at the end of the day, Denver ended up winning the game. To me, this game was rather simple, right? Denver hit shots, hit big shots in key moments. Lakers didn't. It was kind of like in the Western Conference, right? Every time we'd go on a run, Jokic or Murray would hit a big shot to basically just stall the run and then kind of get things back in order. And eventually they were able to pull out the win. Now, I know a lot of people are taking this as like, it's the apocalypse, end days, that's it, it's over. But luckily the Lakers aren't eliminated from the playoffs or even potentially win an NBA championship off of one game, right? One team looked fluid, looked like a team that just won an NBA championship. One team looked like a team that has a lot of work ahead of them, which we all expected. The Lakers should continue to improve, should continue to get better as the season progresses. And you got to imagine that the bulk of the players, such as Reeves, D'Lo, Rui Hachimura, like those guys will actually play better throughout the course of the season. But the big issue, and this is my biggest issue. Now, there were a lot of things that you could take away that were a bit of an issue, right? Rebounding is another thing. We got to do a much better job rebounding. That was an issue in the preseason that seems to carry over. Now, the Lakers did out-rebound Denver 44-42, and they did get 13 offensive rebounds to Denver's 9, but it's just the key moments and opportunity. Like, again, if you saw that game, it was rough, right? But my biggest issue, Anthony Davis, right? This is supposed to be his year. This is supposed to be his team. LeBron James publicly said, this is AD's year. You heard Rob Pelinka, everybody talking about how AD's ready to take that next step, blah, 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 right? Anthony Davis looks like an absolute monster all preseason, looks like a guy that's ready to take the keys and just run away with this car that is the Lakers. And what happens? We start the game. Anthony Davis, he looks like that guy. Anthony Davis is looking great. He's looking aggressive, looking physical. The Lakers couldn't get a whistle to save their lives, especially LeBron. I do not understand it. This is kind of like a little side tangent, but for whatever reason, LeBron James cannot get a whistle to save his life. I've never seen anything like it. Especially somebody that is a superstar. Like, you see Jordan, like the Jordan whistle, the Kobe whistle, like even stars and period. Like, LeBron it's just infuriating. But AD couldn't even really get a whistle, right? He was aggressive. He was attacking the hoop. He was doing everything that you wanted to see him do in the first half and only got 4 free throws. He was 4-4 from the free throw line, which is good. He finished the half with 17 points, 8 rebounds, or 17 points. He finished the game with 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 34 minutes. He also had 2 blocks, which was great, but he finished the game with 17 points. Let me reiterate that. He finished halftime with 17 points. He finished the game with 17 points. That is completely ridiculous, right? I see a lot of people blaming D'Angelo Russell, blaming Darvin Ham, blaming whomever, right? Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura. I've seen everybody blame everybody except for your best player. LeBron James is in year 21, age about to be 39, and he was still the best player on the Lakers. And look, LeBron is ridiculous. Dude, this guy is A1, like without a doubt. It's crazy what he's been able to do and achieve. But at what point does Anthony Davis take the keys? Look, I have talked super high over Anthony Davis. I have defended Anthony Davis. I believe he is an incredible talent. Now, look, I'm not saying that we need to trade Anthony Davis. I'm not saying we need to release Anthony. I'm not saying anything like that, right? Anthony Davis is still a ridiculous dominant force. And we have seen him put it together enough for us to win an NBA championship. We've seen him put it together for an entire playoff series. But since that playoff series, Anthony Davis has been the most inconsistent superstar I think I've ever seen. Anthony Davis should be in the conversation for greatest player in the NBA. I mean, Anthony Davis, with his talent and skill set, should be in the conversation for one of the greatest, if not the greatest ever. You're talking about a guy that's like 6'11", that can handle the ball like a point guard, one of the greatest defensive players we have ever seen, can shoot the three ball, can shoot the mid-range, is a legit three-level scorer, can take guys off the dribble, can basically do everything you could ask for and more. And for whatever reason, this guy cannot consistently put it together. He is our best player. He is our star. It's not Darvin Ham's fault that Anthony Davis went scoreless in the entire second half. It's not D'Angelo Russell's fault that Anthony Davis went scoreless in the second half. It's not anybody else's fault but Anthony Davis being assertive, being aggressive, attacking the hoop. Like, do what was causing you to be effective that first half. And, I see people saying like, oh, well, it's because he's playing the center position. He's played the center position. He was closing games in the bubble at the center position against Jokic. Anthony Davis had his best year of his career percentage-wise last season as the center. Anthony Davis is the best center when he's locked in, focused, ready to go. Anthony Davis was looking dominant in the first half before the second half at the center position. It's not because he can't play center. It's not because he shouldn't play center. This is something with Anthony Davis. This is his aggression. This is his physicality. This is him being focused and locked in for an entirety of a game. We saw it last year, right? Where it was the roller coaster ride. And look, I'm not saying Anthony Davis isn't a tremendous player. He's still a top 10 player. As much as people want to say he isn't, as much as people want to, whatever, he's still a top 10 player. Guy is ridiculous. Again, I'm not saying to trade him. I'm not saying anything. But it is becoming clear that Anthony Davis is not the number one guy. And I don't think he's going to ever be the number one guy. I don't. And that's fine, right? Not everybody is the number one guy. Not everyone is the alpha. Not everyone is the guy that is the be-all, end-all to go win an NBA championship. Every team needs a number two guy, right? Like even Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is one of the greatest players to ever play the game of basketball. Is probably top 15 player all time. He's not the guy, right? Like, he's been on several teams where he was the guy and was never able to do anything. But every time he becomes the number two guy, it's great, right? Goes to the Warriors, he's the number two guy. And I know he won finals MVP and stuff like that, but so did Andre Iguodala, right? Like, that was Steph's team. Steph was the guy that drew the attention. It made things easier for Kevin Durant, right? Kevin Durant is one of the greatest players we have ever seen lace up shoes and play the game of basketball. He's not a number one guy. Just because Anthony Davis isn't a number one guy doesn't mean he isn't great. Doesn't mean he can't be great. The problem is we need him to be the number one guy, and he's not. And LeBron James, as beautiful and brilliant as he is not that 27-year-old who can completely control and dictate a game on a regular basis, right? He has to go in spurts now. If this was 27-year-old LeBron James, I would care less. I'd be like, come on, stop. We're winning the NBA championship, right? Like, relax. It's fine, right? Because 27-year-old LeBron James could just control and dictate a game like unlike anything we had ever seen, right? Problem is he can't do that anymore. Can he go get you 30 on a regular basis? Absolutely. Can he go give you a 30-point triple-double? Absolutely. Can he dominate for a stretch? Can he lock up defensively? Absolutely. We saw him do it in the Denver game, right? Like, LeBron James is still a top 10 player, without a doubt. And he is still a number one guy in a lot of ways. But he can't carry a team enough to where your number two guy completely disappears. That's the problem, right? Like, especially when other guys are disappearing. Outside of Taurean Prince, Nobody else really showed up that we needed to show up. Right? Cam Reddish was solid. Shot 50% from the field, gave you 7 points. Great defensively. I loved what I saw from him. Christian Wood was 3 of 4 from the field in 15 minutes, gave you 7 points, 4 rebounds. I loved what I saw from him. Right? Like, you had guys that were solid. Right? Even D'Lo picked it up in the second half. He was terrible in the first half, really picked it up in the second half. Finished with 11 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, shot 40% from 3. Right? He's had a steal. He was great defensively. I loved what I saw out of him defensively. Right? Like, there were positives in this game. Like, without a doubt, there were positives in this game. But you have Rui Hachimura, who basically was lost out there and couldn't make a basket to save his life, couldn't finish at the rim, nothing. You had Austin Reeves, who, yes, had a 14, 8, and 4 stat line, which was great. But if you actually saw him play, he looked out of sorts. He couldn't get anything going. He just didn't look as comfortable as he usually does out there. He wasn't able to hit shots at the efficient clip. All his shots were just like off entirely. Right? D'Lo, like I said, in the first half was terrible on the offensive end. And then you have Anthony Davis, who usually that's the guy that you should be counting on to on a regular basis go and be that constant, be that consistent. And he just wasn't. And he hasn't been. And that's the problem, right? Like, as much as people want to blame D'Lo, blame everyone else, those guys aren't the superstars. D'Angelo Russell is what? Our third, maybe fourth best player? And people are treating him like it's his fault, like he's the number one guy. Right? Like Reeves, as great as Reeves has been, it's not like Reeves is what? Again, our third or fourth best player? Right? Like, they're allowed to be inconsistent at times. Because they're not the number one. They're not the number two guy. They're not the franchise cornerstone. They're not the guy being paid as such. Anthony Davis needs to get back to that. We've seen him do it. That's the thing that's so frustrating. Right? Like, if we didn't see an entire season of Anthony Davis being the best player in the NBA, and especially in the playoffs, and look like this dude is about to take over the league, like, if we didn't see that, and it was just this Anthony Davis the entire time he's been with the Lakers, and even if we did still win the championship, like, let's say we won the championship with this AD, right? Like, I wouldn't be as critical. Because I'd be like, well, this is the Anthony Davis. Like, this is just Anthony Davis. This is just who he is, right? But it's not. We've seen him do it. We've seen him do it for stretches. We've seen him do it on even a regular basis for extended periods. But he just can't seem to do it consistently enough to lead the Lakers to an NBA championship. And it is just so frustrating. So frustrating. But look, not all hope is lost. It doesn't mean the Lakers aren't winning the championship. It doesn't mean anything. Right? It's the first game of the season. Right? Maybe Anthony Davis rights the ship and goes the rest of the way. Right? And maybe he is that guy we hope for the rest of the way. And I hope he is. Again, I don't want to get too high with the highs. I don't want to get too low with the lows. Right? One game doesn't decide the entirety of the season. We all need to have a little breath. But it is frustrating to see Anthony Davis. It's inexcusable. You have 0 points in the second half, and you were a top 10 player in the league. And the problem is, this is like a normal occurrence. It's crazy to me. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you agree with my points? Agree with my frustrations? Do you not? Love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.